pedal. The system steady pulling they strings just like the pedal. But I swear I never settle till I free them from the devil. I spit for black babies trying to keep their hope alive. The world is trying to take away their hunger to survive. I spit for lost sheep that never dream of universities. They can't see above their situations and adversities. Whose only real role models is gangsters. They cop back the bank is the channel they aim to blow. Rise and fall like the movement of the Dow. They say revolution's coming, but I say the time is now. I put that on my mother and everything that I hold dear. Covered by the waters of faith, so I don't feel fear. Cause you ain't living till you're willing to die. I'm sick and tired of my people living just to get by. I speak for all my ancestors that are dead in the Atlantic. Fed the shark infested waters makes me wanna go manic. Color money, they changing the red. Cause it's soaked in the blood of my people. Blood, yeah. Nat Turner, yo. I speak for you. I speak for you. Fred Hampton, yeah. I speak for you. I speak for you. John Brown, yeah. I speak for you. I speak for you. Megan Evans, yo. I speak for you. I speak for you. Emmett Till, yeah. I speak for you. I speak for you. Malcolm X, yeah. I speak for you. I speak for you. Dr. King, yo. I speak for you. I speak for you. Huey P, yeah. I speak for you. I'm seeing slave ships that make the homicide look like a cruise that never once got the chance to take revenge of the crew. Ain't no limit to the evil men do. Hey yo, a war on terrorism means a war against you. Uncle Sam, the biggest terrorist the world has ever known. Stole land from indigenous peoples and called it home. Knew it was theirs, but you called it your own. Still you got the nerve to wonder why you reap what you sow. I remember all the blankets that you lace with the flu, but you don't call it terrorism till it's done against you. You know the plan, and yeah, I know exactly who I am. I'm original man, the one that built the pyramids in the sand. Once you still can't build with your machine in your hand. The seed of Abraham, raised in true motherland. Miss America, the queen of the damn. A blood-sucker vampire, so I thought I been ran. But you better understand, SB gon' stand. You steady telling me I can't, well I know that I can. Even if I had to rock it as a one-man band. The only weapons that I need are the paper and pen. Yeah, Chi-Town, yo, I speak for you, yeah. Southside, yo, I speak for you. West side, yeah, I speak for you. North side, I speak for you. East Coast, I speak for you. West Coast, yeah, I speak for you. Dirty South,
Thank you again for tuning in to tonight's session of Girls Like Me, GLMPI Power Talks. I am so honored to be your host, to bring you conversations that are about transforming our communities, transforming our own lives so that we can actually, in fact, better the lives of all Black people across the country. Last night was a kickoff. We had an extraordinary guest. We had Brother Daryl Cook, who actually spoke with us and was very transparent and vulnerable. Such a powerful conversation, and we're going to continue that conversation tonight. This is being brought to you and sponsored by Activist. We're speaking and talking with justice-involved fathers and speaking about the importance of the census. And speaking of the census, I hope that you have made sure that your family members and all of your household members have completed the census for U.S. Census 2020 to ensure that the resources that are allocated through the census registers, that we actually are counted in that. We're counted in that for our infrastructure. We're counted in that for our resources. We're counted in that for our education, counted in that for our jobs, all the federal access and resources that we are a part of that. So want to encourage you to go to right now, as I'm talking, you can listen to me talk and still type in. If you have not done so, I am going to encourage you right now, to go to uscensus.gov and complete your census now. I am excited to have with us another powerful guest who can share about what it is, not only the barriers that justice-involved fathers face in trying to reclaim their role in their families and in the community, but also to be able to talk to us about the ways that justice-involved fathers are absolutely helping to be a solution in our community and transform our community. And so right now I want to bring on with us Brother William Too Short Edwards. How you doing, brother?
All right, and yourself?
Let me make sure I can hear you.
All right, and yourself, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly well. Look like
Okay.
you just now getting off work or just now leaving
Now,
work.
now I'm out here right now. We doing something with Alderman Pat Dow.
Okay.
We having a block party, barbecue out over here.
Okay, in the third ward.
Yes.
Low end.
Yeah.
Where I grew up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So and it's also where Girls Like Me serves, but that's also a part of where you are. So the actual you are actually the outreach site supervisor with Activists,
Correct.
and you all serve that area right through Activists.
Yes.
What other areas do you serve?
We serve Washington Park, which is from 51st to 63rd, from State to King Drive, but we go a little further to College Point. Then
Yep.
we got
Go ahead.
huh? Then we have from 50th to 39th, which we just started that one. That's why we over here with Mr. Pat Down now.
Yeah, y'all serve a lot of areas. Y'all in Grand Crossing, y'all in Washington Park, y'all in Washington Heights, uh,
Roseland.
Roseland, Grand Boulevard, Pullman,
Yeah.
all of the areas that are supposedly hot spots.
Yeah.
So that's why y'all work is so important. So tell the people who are watching just a little bit about what your role is with activists.
Well, I started off as a hospital responder. And what we do is anytime somebody shot, stabbed, or beat up, we go to the hospital and the worst day of their life, and we try to talk to them or their family, or maybe both, and try to offer them counseling. We got resources to try to get them jobs, school, and try to get them to change a different change of perspective.
And so what do you specifically do?
Now I just became a supervisor, so now I'm at Washington Park. So from 51st to 63rd, I will be working the blocks, canvassing the blocks, and talking to the youth and trying to better them,
Yeah.
better the area.
And so supervisor means you got a lot of responsibility. Like
Yes.
you got leadership. You got
Yeah,
leadership.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. What even got you to working with activists? Tell us about your life journey. How you got here where you are today.
Well, I started off young myself and went into the streets. Uh, I saw school wasn't doing it for me. I wasn't good at playing sports. So I said, okay, we only have three choices. That was my thinking back then. Either you're gonna get a scholarship to play sports and go out and make some money. You're gonna get you have to get a good education to become somebody to make money, or you have to find a way in the streets. Those three choices I considered back then. So I tried the first two and they failed. So I went to the streets. While I was in the streets, I ended up catching a federal case, and over 25 years, I was locked up and just been released.
Can you hear me? Because we kind of lost you a little bit, brother. Too short. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can't see you, but I can hear you. So I don't know what's going on with the camera, but you can keep talking until we figure out how to get you back on camera. Okay, so until he comes back, I'm just gonna go ahead and also encourage you to, um, like I said, go on and ensure that you're actually watching or filling out. I'm sorry, completing the um, completing the census online, the uscensus.gov, to ensure that our families are being counted. And then also, I want you to just visit activistinc.org. They're doing some powerful work in terms of violence prevention, uh, violence prevention here in the city of Chicago. They are covering um, the South Side, mostly Pullman, Washington Heights, Washington Park, Graham Boulevard. Washington Park is like Bronzeville area, but also closer to 55th, 59th, that area. A lot of work is being done. Uh, so I'm not sure how we can get Brother Too Short back on. Some people are saying that maybe, let me see, let me tell him, I'm gonna text him and tell him to log off. What I want you all to know about these conversations is that they are um, it's crazy because technology will trick us all, and we all have to just roll with it. So we're gonna bear with it, and hopefully he'll be able to come back on. But each day from now until Friday, July 10th, we will have on and feature justice involved fathers. Yesterday, there's Brother Too Short. We got him back on, so we'll pull him back in. Yesterday, we had Daryl Cook on with us, who was very transparent and talked about the work he's doing. One thing that we definitely want you to know is that justice involved fathers does not mean that they have been destined to being criminally involved, or that they are throwaways and they can't be transformed, and that they don't have a role and a place in our community and being a solution to some of the things that plague us, especially violence and crime. And so that is why we are bringing you each night. And I'm going to bring back on Brother Too Short now. All right, we good?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we're just talking about all the areas. So one of the things you were talking about your journey. So can you start back over? And when you say in the streets, just for people who are not familiar, like that can be general. That can mean anything. But if you don't mind being as transparent as possible and just telling people exactly what that looked like, um, because what we want people to understand is that there is redemption after every every mistake in life. Yesterday we had Daryl Cook on, who shared shamelessly, and that he was involved in shooting at his child's mother and harming his child's mother, and had to do time. But it's turned around and done some incredible stuff. So if you don't mind just sharing exactly when you say words like in the street, like be as real as possible, like tell it, you know what I mean? Speak to it as much as you can. And
Well,
I'm gonna get off the camera and let you have that.
all right. Well, for me, being in the streets I was in the streets selling drugs. Um, they ended up giving me a federal conspiracy. It was like 39 of us charged in the conspiracy, uh, and they ended up giving me a life sentence. So around August the 12th, under the Second Chance Act, I was released. And ever since I've been released, I've been working with activists. And even while I was in prison, always I was a tutor for GED classes. I did that for the last 10 years. And mentoring the youth, coming in there, talking to them, not even just the youth. It was, I think probably dudes was 61, probably up to 61 years old, that would come and want me to talk to them. And I would talk to them, explaining to them that the streets wasn't where it was at, that your family should always be first.
And that's amazing. So when you, I mean, so we talking about economics, right? People sell drugs because you need access to money. And
Correct.
you talked already about the choice that you made because you couldn't find what you needed inside of the educational system. So
Oh,
talk a little bit about what those challenges were when you were in school.
okay. But first, well, when I was 8 years old, I had burnt down my mother's house. We were staying on 102nd and May out there in the 100. And moving to the projects was different for us. we stayed in Robert Taylor Projects, 3919 South Federal. So when we moved in there at 8 years old, I could tell that I was in a different environment. We was walking, carrying our furniture in. Nobody said nothing to us. Nobody offered to help or nothing. So at 8, I knew it was a different environment. Our whole family did. So that process made my mother quit her job at Sherwin Williams Paint Company out there on 115th Street, and she just stayed home. So she was like kind of angry about it. And my father was there, but my father stayed working. So
So
uh,
wait, so you burned down the house, and then y'all had to move into the housing projects because of since you had burned down the house.
correct.
Okay.
So my whole thing the whole time was I caused us to move in that environment. So I had to find a way to get us out of there, which I did. But it was a cost that came with it. I
Wow.
lost 25 years of spending time with them.
So from 8 years old, you holding on to this guilt of
Yes,
the mistake you made at 8 years old,
yes,
which is driving you to feel responsible for your family's economic condition.
correct.
Wow. And so you go to school and you didn't get counseling for what the mistake you made at 8. Did you get any kind of
No,
counseling
no,
or anybody talk to you about not being your fault, a mistake kids do? Nobody talk to you about that.
no.
Okay, so you just go right back into childhood, go back to school. Okay, tell us about that school.
Oh, even in school, what I learned when I started tutoring in the prisons, in federal prisons, is we had one teacher and it was 30 students. Ain't no way a teacher could teach 30 students at one time because everybody learned different at a different level. If you teaching if you teaching algebra, maybe 5 students out of 30 is gonna catch on to you as you go on. The other 5 may catch on to a certain amount, but not all of it. Then you're gonna have some that's not gonna catch on to nothing and they need their help, but nobody there to help them. They don't have no tutors to help teaching their teaching them. So
So you at school, which is overpopulated, classrooms over because it's CPS, right?
correct.
And so,
Crispus Attucks.
oh yeah, right
Crispus
there on
Attucks.
the state. Okay, right
I
there.
graduated from Crispus Attucks and went to Wendell Phillips.
Okay, and
And
then
I dropped out. I dropped out in my senior year.
you dropped out your senior year, and then how soon after that did you start, as you say, going into the streets and selling drugs?
Well, right before I dropped out, I had um I had my first daughter
Okay.
at 17. So that what made me that was part of the decision to make me just drop out.
Okay.
Now I got a real responsibility.
And
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 like you said, I had both my parents, so I came up be there for your child.
so no sad story about not having your father. You had your
No,
father. You
I
had
don't
your
have that
mother.
story. No, I
Yep.
don't have that
So
story.
and your daughter don't have it. Your children don't have it because they have you,
Correct.
right?
Even though
So
even though I was gone them 25 years,
mhm.
but I stayed in contact.
So I want you to go back to that point when you said, you made the decision to drop out after you had your daughter. What was that? Was that because you wanted to provide? Like what was the push that made you drop out?
Well, like I say, I had two reasons. I need to get my mother and my parents out of the project. That was number one. Then I just gave birth to my first daughter. So with those two going through my head, I said, okay, school is not gonna make me. Even if I graduate, I don't see nothing promising that would allow me to have the income to move them out of the projects and keep my daughter from being in the project. So that's what gave me the drive to get my all to the street, to the drug life. And while I was doing that, I ended up moving. I was like the first one to ever move you'll hear stories where mothers and grandmothers will say, I can't wait till my daughter or my granddaughter turn 18 so she can get her own apartment.
Wow.
In the projects. So it was like we was like they was taught trying to tell us always live in the project.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go outside the project.
Mm-hmm.
So with me coming from outside first, I knew a different environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew to give my family back into that environment.
Mm-hmm. So,
And I did what I had to do to get them there.
and before that, like any all the way from high school, before that, have you been involved at all with the justice system before that?
I had a couple arrests, but they was thrown out.
And what was your relationship like with police or with the justice system? When you thought of the police growing up, what was you thinking about police? Like, what did you see in the police?
I mean, we know all of them is not the same, but
Mm-hmm.
at that time, when you see a detective, they call them 21 jump back in the day, you see them, you gotta run because no matter what, either they're gonna put something on you or they're gonna try to jump you.
Because this is the day of John Burge. That was in the time of John Burge being
Correct.
so all.
Especially if they thought they knew you.
Mhm.
If they thought your name was ringing in the area, they was at you.
And so this leads us to this conspiracy, right? Because
Correct.
conspiracy means that they didn't actually see you or catch you actually doing it. It's almost like
Correct.
the Blagojevich, like just having just being involved. So how did that weigh on you to be able to say that you, even though you knew that's what you were doing, right? Uh,
Correct.
to not be able to prove that you were doing it and still have to serve time. How did that play on your mental?
Um, a great deal, but um, I knew that I had did wrong. I know selling drugs was doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we grow up saying you may not get caught for doing the crimes that you did, but when something do happen, maybe that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happened for a reason, you
So
know. So,
so now you
so
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So, so what they did was they end up rounding up 39 of us. They never caught me with no drugs. They caught me with like $6,000 one time, but they never caught me with no drugs, nothing like that. What they did say is we was making $100,000 a year, every year for multiple years, and they were saying we was making $300,000 a day, every day of the year. Now, how could you make $300,000 a day, and then when you bring a person to court and send them through trial, you you don't have no money to show that, no property that you confiscated, no car, no luxury car, no building. How could you not catch at least 300,000 if a person is making it every day of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Impossible.
And how many of you all was it?
It was 39.
39 people making 300,000 a day. So they could, and they didn't find any of that.
No.
Yeah. So here's the next question. So you go in. Did you have your own private attorney, or were you represented by someone from the county?
Well, it was federal, so we have federal. They have federal lawyers. No, I didn't get one because I knew that they don't. When you fight in the government, the federal government, it's a different fight from the state.
Mm-hmm.
My state cases I always had a paid lawyer. Federal, I was on the run for 3 years. I ran for 3 years. I was a fugitive. So I would hear about how they was doing the other one that had paid lawyers, and they had just got convicted when I got caught, but they didn't receive their time. So I had made up my mind that I wasn't gonna pay for a lawyer.
So now we are in the height of the war on drugs. We in the height of the whole crime bill that Biden was behind, that the Clintons were behind. Um, that's this decimating black families. Um, you already stated your reason for doing selling drugs was strictly economical. So that
Correct.
means that means that there weren't jobs that you qualified for, jobs that were available to you, and so
No.
you chose out of necessity to sell drugs. And so
Correct.
how coming now you're out and you've been out. You gave how many years?
Like I say, I ran for 3 years. I gave them 22 active
22
inside.
years. So your
Yeah.
daughter. So how many children do you have? You have a daughter,
I have four daughters and 4 sons, and
8
15
children.
grandkids.
Woo! I love it. So,
It- it-
how much of your children's life did you miss? How old is your youngest?
my youngest now is 25. My youngest too is 25.
So 3 years of their life you weren't.
Right. One was just born, and one wasn't even born when I first ran.
So your children. We're talking about justice involved fathers. How does this? How is this impacting your relationship while you locked up? How's this impacting your relationship with your children?
It affected it a lot because when you serve in a federal sentence, they'll send you. I'm from Chicago, and my whole family is from Chicago. So they sent me to Terre Haute, Indiana, which is like a 3-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that was a USP, high, and I did 10 years there. So them coming back and forth from there, all my kids weren't able to travel there. Some did, some of my family did, but they all wasn't traveling. Some didn't. Some of their mothers didn't want to drive them or see me in there at that time because they was little. Um, then the next spot they sent me to was Beaumont, Texas, and now you definitely have to fly to for a visit. I got some visits there. Uh, then I went to Pekin, Illinois, which is another. I think that's a 2-hour drive. I got a lot of visits there, so it varies. Then I went to Yazoo, Mississippi. That's where I was released from.
And what is the reasoning behind being moved so often?
Well, they got different levels of prisons for one, and like I say, they gave me a life sentence off no drugs, no money, no none like that. So with a life sentence, you automatically gonna go to a prison, high security prison.
So nonviolent. Uh oh. So nonviolent case. Now you're in prison with people who could possibly be in there for violent crimes. Can you hear me? I don't know about you all, but these stories, when he comes back on, we're gonna get into the conversation about, you know, when we look at these days now. Um, we look at now and we see people making millions of dollars for what before was drugs or illegal drugs are now making millions of dollars, and we see that the way that families have been decimated and separated. Um, this brother is saying that he had 22 years. 22 years he had to give his life up. So hopefully we can get him back on to finish talking about. Um, I want to get a little bit into why, just the experience, especially as we talking about how this impacts girls and children when their fathers or mothers are incarcerated and when they're facing the justice system and involved with the justice system, how that impacts their ability to parent, how that impacts their ability to maintain relationship with their children. So once we get Brother Too Short back on, we'll talk about that. But then I want you to know about what he's doing now, how powerful he's doing it, and also ways that we can support as a community, how we can support when these brothers return home, supporting their children, supporting them, and supporting the efforts like that of Aclivis Incorporated. You can go ahead and visit Aclivis Inc. Aclivis ACCLIVUS.org. You can go ahead and visit that website and find out what they're doing in the community and how you can support that work, and getting the word out about what they're doing, because so many brothers have stories like Brother Too Short, have stories like Gerald Cook, who was on with us, and you'll see many more this week who will come on and share their journey. We don't want to just dig into what happened to get them involved in the justice system, but we want to point out um, the ways that people wind up in these situations. It's not always black and white, and so we got Brother Too Short back with us. There you go. Glad you back.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no. I know you're driving, so I know it's hard to maintain that signal. So we'll get in and out however we can. We'll just keep it moving. That's technology. So
Okay.
I wanted you to talk about how first of all I want you to talk about again how this impacted your relationship with your children, um, because we see so oftentimes we know things are cyclical and things that happen is generational. So how has this impacted your children? Not having you there
Well,
present every day.
what when I was during the process of being in prison, uh, some felt like I was paying more attention to some of the other ones because they was coming to visit more often, not knowing that um, I'm not really one to point fingers or nothing like that, but the mother may not want to come, or she may not want nobody to bring her.
Mhm.
So it was situations like that. But my daughters and my sons, some feel like I paid more attention to certain ones because they always came and I always sent all the rest of them pictures of me on visit with the ones that came. So getting out, it was a little difficult. Seeing all of them come around each other and uh, finally coming around and spending time with each other because they really wasn't doing that at first.
Mm.
So now they come around more. We go out to eat. We have little gatherings at the house and stuff like that. So now it's like a real family now.
And what kind of work did it take for you to get back into a rhythm of being a father? Of some of the things you might have missed. How did it take? What did it take? What's the work it takes constantly? I know to keep
Okay.
from feeling that regret.
Uh, I mean, if you look on my page, on my Instagram, on my Facebook, every chance I get, I'm posting pictures with my family. All my pictures is about family. My whole family, my nieces, my nephews, my grandkids, my children, and uh, uh, so yeah, everything about me is about family.
And so so let's move forward. You getting out 23, 22 years you had to give of your life for a conspiracy. Not even that they found the drugs, but for conspiracy.
Right.
And now when you get out, I think it's right at the time that we start, well, you get out a little bit after, but you get out and you hear that all these drugs are now legal and people are making millions of dollars. How is that making you feel?
Actually, that's with marijuana. So I really wasn't into marijuana
But
or
even
nothing
still,
like
I
that.
mean,
But still, at the same time, I
yeah.
was around dudes. I was around people that I consider them my friends because we all had life sentence.
Hmm.
So they in there serving life sentence over marijuana because they had other convictions, and here it is, it's legal now, and they got to still sit in there until something change for them to get back. Because
And
it's still illegal with the federal law.
and I'm not making excuses or even trying to excuse away bad choices or decisions that people make. But I do want to just talk about, like, would you say that you would have made that same choice had you had a job or ability to get a job? If you had what you needed financially, would you have made the choice to sell drugs?
No, because I'm doing it now.
And so that's what I want people to understand and hear, especially when we know that families are separated and decimated and literally torn apart. I know you have to piece your family back together again after
Right.
you come out, and the cost of doing that, like the cost of having to do that. I just want people to know that, is it really worth it to criminalize drug sales? Is it worth it to criminalize that behavior versus providing opportunity? So that's just a statement for policymakers and people like that
Correct.
to consider. The price
Correct.
paying that society is paying, is it really worth the price when you can just go ahead and offer those other resources?
Correct. It's like now we just had well, we have the COVID-19 right now, where everybody basically had to stay home, no, not going to work. That made more people, like a lot of crime started off with being domestic. But I was working at the hospital. I was going to see guys in there saying, "Man, my girl just shot me. My girl stabbed me."
Wow.
So, a lot of this is coming from is just built up. You not providing no food, no, you ain't got nothing. Ain't no way to make no money. And even for they thinking it's about drugs out here right now. It's not really about drugs. A lot of these young dudes not even thinking about selling drugs.
So what would you right now in the work that you do? So your day to day, give me your day to day, just in terms of even being uh, involved with young people and engaged with young people. What's your day to day? What does it look like to be working with activists?
Um, it's
Walk me through your work day.
like I say, I just changed. I just switched over to be the supervisor with working on the canvassing the blocks. So I just started doing that. But before that was I'm on 24/7 call with the hospital. So if somebody shot, stabbed, or beat up at 1 o'clock in the morning, I have to get out of bed and go to the hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital, and see them. Or if they get shot, some people get shot or beat up at 1, then turn around, somebody there at 3, or it may be a group. You got to get there within 1 hour. Our policy, we have to be there within 1 hour to see them people.
And so why are you all going there? Just let people know what's the impact of you going to the hospital after somebody has been involved in a shooting or a violent altercation.
It's really effective now because now that I go there, the hospital is not letting family in. So people is in there and they worst time of their life. They shot, stabbed, or beat up. That's the worst time of their life. And the females are scared. Some of the dudes are even scared. And they don't have nobody to talk to. So what we do, we come in there and we talking to them. Since this happened, a lot of them be like, "Man, could you just stay here with me a little longer and talk to me?" Which I do. That
Mm-hmm.
because that's service we provide.
Yeah.
They want to feel some type of comfort. They want to know, even in their worst time, that things will still be all right. It's still, for majority of them.
I mean, it's amazing to me that we can't understand. I don't understand the policy of not having family around or anything, but you know what it is, right? But
Right.
it's amazing that in a society that will see a dog on the side of a road hurt, they'll pick the dog up and take the dog to shelter or make sure the dog is good, but cannot imagine that black people, black lives, when they're harmed, would need the same care, attention, and love. That is amazing. That's mind blowing. So
Yeah.
Activist does that work. Thank you. And isn't it also imperative that you all are there because there might be some kind of retaliation? So are you all
Now,
impact on that?
now on the outreach side, which I'm doing now, I'm starting to do now. What we do is if it's a situation occurred or incident, we call them incidents. Uh, Somebody got shot in the area. We'll call the area, find out who we can come over there and talk to try to mediate a situation of no retaliation or nothing, or we'll try to talk to them and say, y'all stay in y'all area, let them stay in their area, nobody go, and that's what we try to do.
And that's
And
because go ahead. I'm sorry.
and and in the same process, we try to find other ways to get some jobs. We got a lot of programs where resources that we can find little jobs for them. Walgreens starting to do some, well, was starting to do some hiring. Um, it's a few of them, and we'll get participants to sign up, and we'll call the people to take them, try to get them some jobs, schooling, counseling, stuff like that.
Because how if you could give it from a scale of 1 to 10, what difference do you think it makes in a job and not having a job to ending some of these incidents? What would you say is the difference of a job or not a job?
It's up there to, I would really want to say a 10 because it's a necessary. It's something that you need, and if you can keep the somebody with a job that's 8 hours a day that they not out there on the street, they doing something. Then most likely they're gonna be tired, so that's another 4 to 5 hours off the street. And that's at the bare minimum that they only get 4 or 5 hours sleep.
Yeah.
So uh, a job or school and something like that helps everybody.
And so I want to go back into justice involved fathers and the role of police in school. You know, that's a big deal right now. Everybody's talking about that. And you talked about the challenges you had at school and dropping out. What do you
Yeah.
think if activists or other organizations like activists have more of a presence in high schools or schools? Do you think that that there will be as much need for a police presence?
No, it wouldn't, because we'll be people that, especially if the school is from the area that you grew up in. See, that's one thing about actors. When you get a job with actors and you work in a certain area, you have to be from that area. You can't come from the 100 and get a job at one of these sites on the low end, on 50th and State, and you come from the 100, because you're not gonna know these people down here. Same thing. I can't go to Roseland. I know some people in Roseland, but the majority of people in Roseland, if I'm walking down the block, nobody is gonna pay me no attention. They're gonna be looking at me like, "What is you doing over in our area?" That's what they're gonna pay attention about. They ain't gonna be saying, "How you doing?" I can walk around on low end and people gonna be like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing?" Same thing, because we know each other. So it's different, and they're gonna be open to talk to you.
And that's not something that is because we already talked about. You said when you were coming up, it was the John Burge era. These kids are coming up in the Laquan McDonald era. So the relationship is already kind of tense. It's not a trusting relationship anyway. But when
Correct.
activists, there is. So I just also want to just talk about like how have you talked to your daughters and your sons about some of the things that they were experiencing while you were gone? Like what some of the issues that they were facing by your absence?
I'm gonna share this one with y'all. We was out at it was one of them kids place. I forgot the name of it. It's out on like almost out in 200 on Cicero, where they got the slides, they got the jumping thing, where you take all the kids to. So I'm in there and I'm playing with my kids, and I got one of the videos on Facebook and Instagram, and I was carrying my granddaughter up the slide, and I slide her down because she was scared to slide by herself. She's 2 years old, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, Tiffany, I looked at her and she over there crying. She crying because she don't remember me spending that type of time with her. But to see me spending it with my grandkids, she like, I don't have those memories, but I can see how you is with them.
Wow. Wow. And I asked that question not to bring up any pain points or anything like that, but just so people understand when we talk about what people say, well, what's wrong with these kids and why this and why that? So much of what's tied to the justice system is tied to our children's behavior. It's tied to their trauma. It's tied to how they handle things. So yesterday, Daryl was on and he was talking about his mother being incarcerated all his life almost. She had 60 years that she was sentenced to, and the times that he had to go, even from a little boy, going there, being strip searched just to go see his mother, and then walking into a high school and have to go through the metal detector. That's triggering, right? And he talked about not having any, being told to ask your parents to sign the permission slip to go on a field trip, but you don't have a parent, so you're being raised by a grandmother. So those type of things. So when your children are missing you, when we're missing our fathers because they've been incarcerated on a conspiracy, when they're taken from us for things that are now people are able to make money from and it's legalized now. I just want people to understand the societal price we pay and that so much of this can be prevented. What's the proudest thing that you are in the work that you are doing right now? What and while you were gone, what is it that you did while you were gone that you think helped you to be who you are now, that you're able to do what you're doing now?
That I can do something that I love, and people tell me often, man, thanks for talking to me enough. Thanks for giving me positive advice. Even though you had a life sentence, I'm always smiling. You'll never catch me frowning or nothing like that. And they were like, how could you got a life sentence, you ain't gonna never get out. Why is you smiling? What makes you happy? Because I tell them, I'm not gonna serve this whole sentence.
That's right.
I spent 22 years, but I'm not gonna serve this whole sentence. Even with my kids, when I finally told them, I say I'll be home soon. They were like, "Yeah, you just talking again." And then I told them, I say, "Well, I'll be home next week." They still didn't believe me, so I didn't tell them the actual date that I was coming home. They ended up seeing it on video.
Wow.
I had a friend to come pick me up, and he went live, and they seen it.
So what? How did you not serve the whole sentence?
Well, Trump happened to sign the Second Bill Act, the Second Chance Act. When he signed that, that means if the prosecutors didn't put in your indictment a drug amount for the conspiracy, which they didn't. Like I say, they said it was making 300,000 a day, 100 million a year. This wasn't charged in our indictment. This is something they just threw out there, and at the time they could do it. Now and so when he signed the bill, they could no longer do that. So that dropped me down to 20 years was my max, and I did 22 years.
What's the name of it? It's the Second Chance Act.
Second Chance Act, and it's dealing with drug amounts.
And the drug amount. Explain it for people a little bit more.
The drug amount with federals, you have a certain drug amount that it triggers between how much time you facing. like I say, if you got 50 grams or more, it's dealing with your range is between 20 years to life. It depends, but you starting out because it's 50 grams or more. Of course, you have to be. If you only got 50 grams, the only way you'll get a life sentence if you got a messed up background or uh, they can prove that you had more drugs. They got to prove it now. Back then, they didn't have to prove it. They can just a person can come up there and get on the stand and say, "Yeah, uh, we dealt in 15 keys," and they'll use that. Now they can't do that. They need actual evidence.
How many people were released behind that Second Chance Act?
It's in the thousands.
Wow.
They still, it's in the thousands.
Thousands of black
Actually,
fathers returning back home, returning back to their communities from the Second Chance Act.
correct.
Wow.
It's I know like it used to be like in Terre Haute, it was like 20 of us. All of us had life sentence, and all of us from Chicago. Not actually from different places. We were from all over, and we'll just walk the yard and talk to each other and tell our stories of how we got a life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And after 20, it's probably only 2 or 3 of them that's still in there.
So there's hope behind.
Yes.
So
Correct.
outside of the Second Chance Act that was signed by Donald Trump, how can the community, because you all have to come back in and reclaim your role in the community, especially when the community is facing some of the same things that you contributed to, right? Either, and I say you, but I mean justice involved, period. So it could be
Correct.
either through selling drugs or doing violence, crime, gangs, whatever. How can we support um, justice involved parents or fathers while they're away and also when you come home?
Um, it'd be a good thing where you can get children to a letter or something like that. A letter or some pictures
Wow.
helps a lot while you in there. You don't get that often. So letters and pictures helps a lot. And it builds a bond between you and your child if you can go back and forth. And some if it's an organization out there that would get kids to connect with their father while they're in there through writing first, because it depends on the situation. You never know how the situation is. That would be a lot of help to making a child thinking that it's over, that they father or their mother just left them, because that's how they be feeling.
And that's so important because we talk about just development and just emotional support and emotional wellness. If you feel abandoned, right, and that's in
Right.
both cases, but if you're a child and you feel abandoned, if you're an adult and you're serving time, then you can make sense of it, but a child can't. They just know
Correct.
my daddy is gone. They don't know the how, whys, or whatever, and they know my daddy ain't coming to see me, or my daddy not writing me, or whatever. So it
Correct.
is very important that not just that the bond is there. So I hope we heard that a significant role that the community can play is in making sure that that bond is nurtured and fostered. And the best way, as you heard Brother Cooper say, is by um, making sure that you are helping to, just like we would a pen pal, that we making sure that we create those moments, either in an organization or even at school. We have got to become much more community minded. Every
Right.
facet of our community, even in the schools, it has to be community has to be key. So one of the things that activists prize themselves on is self development, then community development. That's what brings about transformation, and you all work on self. So tell me, how can community support uh, returning fathers and those who are just as involved? What else can this community do once you're home so that you can reestablish your role as a protector, as a provider? as a servant, a nurturer in the community?
I mean, back like it was back then, uh, you don't see that nowadays. Back then, we see uh, ladies struggling with their bags. Nobody help them no more. You know, we need to see more of that. Um, everybody have to be. The community got to be the ones that raise these kids. They got to be wanting to step up. You know, if a mother's lacking, somebody else always stood up. If it was the grandmother, the auntie, or it could be a next door neighbor. Same thing with the father. If the father wasn't there, it's a lot of my friends call my father their father because he always was right there. He was the one that talked to. So we need to get that back.
And how can the community help men like you, accept them and bring them back into the community? Because I know a lot of times it's a barrier there to getting back involved. So
Well,
how do we help make that transition smoother?
through activists, we're gonna start building with the community. We're gonna start going door to doors, building and learning these who living in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Once we do that, they're gonna see how we move. Hopefully, they would accept us and come along with the program. So, which I'm kind of positive they will.
Oh, I absolutely believe so. People are, we can get real to the basic level is that people need love. People need love,
Correct.
shelter, and food.
Right.
And if people have those three basic things, the less likely they are to off into something else. Not saying that
Right.
that they won't, but if they do, if they have those and they know you care, then all the rest of that they think twice, three times before they go and do something they shouldn't be doing when they know they love, they got somewhere to stay and a steady money coming in and place to eat. Well, I believe that Activist is definitely going to be successful in their endeavors. You got a strong team behind you, a good brother,
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Harvey and Yvonne Stone, and all those brothers. So I'm proud of the work you're doing. Girls Like Me is proud. I don't know if you were home, but you probably were home at this time. We did something at the Park District, Washington Park, last year in September. And they all came. We were out hula hooping and food and DJ and everything.
Yeah.
Activist was
I
there.
was,
Yeah,
no, I didn't get out until August.
yeah, it was after August, but you probably was still trying to
Yeah.
get back in.
Oh yeah. That's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but we,
Yeah.
we just appreciate the relationship, the partnership, because we know our girls have fathers. And whatever their fathers are going through, we've got to be able to support that and support you all. So thank you for the work. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you.
I know you're doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to really get to know you better and support and all that good stuff. Thank you so
Same
much for
here.
joining us.
Thank you.
Any last words?
Um, we're gonna bring about a change of perspective in this area, and all the areas that we in. We're gonna get it together as a team, meaning everybody.
Activist it is. Thank you so much, brother.
All right.
All right,
Thanks.
y'all. That was William Too Short Edwards, who is the outreach site supervisor with Activist. Again, please go and visit Activist online, activistinc.org. Um, these conversations are going to happen every day until Friday. We're talking about the importance of the role of justice involved fathers and just how that impacts their daughters and their children, but also how they reclaim their role in the community. There's redemption, there's a space, and a lot of times the solution to what we know has been an ongoing generational problem is in the hands of those who actually have firsthand experience. So thank you all. Again, don't you forget to go and complete your census, your U.S. Census. If you have not done so, if your cousin has not done so, if your uncle has not done so, if anybody you know, make sure you spread the word. Just ask them, hey, have you done your census, 2020 census? And make sure you got into uscensus.gov so that they can complete it. Uh, Access, funding, resources, federal dollars are all ours. And I want us to also look up that Second Chance Act and what it entails and how it impacts our community and other laws and legislations that's on the books that we also need to be paying attention to as we move forward in this election year. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that we are on every day from today until Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. right here on Girls Like Me Project, either our Facebook Live page or you all who are watching us on YouTube. Catch you here tomorrow. Bye.